How to maximize your property value through smart refurbishment. I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process, where to allocate the portfolio money, and that's if you're looking to sell, refinance, or anything else. Let's get started. So let's start with the basics. So why are we increasing the value in the first place? Well, it all depends on your goal. So if you're flipping a property, you're buying it and you're looking to resell, you want to make sure that every pound that's going in is actually increasing that value. Now, back in the day, what we'd be looking at is that £2 to £3 per pound that you put in, but really it's a project by project basis. In basics, you really want to be fundamentally getting a 15% return for every flip that you're doing. What about a refinance? Well, if you're aiming for a valuation uplift, you want to put that cash back into action for your next property. Now, this is known as a BRR or a BRRR or a BRR for some people. Buy it, refurbish, and refinance. Now, big mistake that people make in BRRs is thinking they're going to get all of their cash back. And it doesn't happen like that. Yes, we want to increase the value, but actually it's better to get a good value property than the best price property. And we'll go through that in a bit. And finally, long-term rentals. Well, you want bulletproof durability. So this is what I focus on boring vanilla buy-to-let properties. And what I'm trying to do is maximize my cash flow whilst also getting a great tenant in. What I've typically found, and bear in mind I've done it the wrong way as well many times, unfortunately, over the years, is you do this little tart-up, this small amount of refurbishment, and actually you attract a tenant into a house where they've chosen to live in a lower standard property. In return, what you find is the tenant actually treats it like that. Whereas when you attract a tenant, when you've done a load of work to the property, it looks great, they treat it with a lot more respect. Now, the key is actually allocating the budget to build real value. So where are you going to get the bang for your buck? Here's what we see across the best refurbs that we've done across Aspire projects. Number one, the kitchen. On average, putting in a new kitchen or a decent kitchen, maybe restructuring, brings up to 10% increase to the value of the property, because ultimately the kitchen is the heart of the home. So go modern but simple. Think practical and nothing too bespoke. Neutral tones, integrated appliances if the budget allows, and good lighting. That is absolutely key. Lighting makes all the difference. Seriously though, keep it simple. Whilst you think it's nice and beautiful and that might be great for a service accommodation, for our boring vanilla buy-to-lets, we kind of want it boring. Second place, fairly obvious, but maybe not, the bathroom. Keep it clean, stylish, and low maintenance. Actually, bathrooms can be really cost effective, and it's a really nice way of increasing the visual aspect. So that could be tiling over the plate. Man, by the way, I'm just going to give you one tip to think about on the bathrooms. Get a decent extractor fan. Trust me. And honestly, an automatic one that where it gets moisture in the room, it goes there. It will cost you another 80 quid on top of the cheap, shitty ones. But I promise you, if you're keeping a buy-to-let for the next 10 to 20 years, you are going to get some form of damp or mold or ingress in the bathroom. And of course, the tenant will blame you instead of blaming themselves for not turning on the fucking fan. Number three, first impressions count. Curb appeal, all right? Curb appeal, just a real simple one, is just step across. If it's got a front garden, make sure it's looking good. Tiles on the roof, just make sure it's covered up and make sure you've got every tile there. Simple things like the door being painted if it's an old door. You don't always need to replace them, by the way. A little bit of spray on there looks really good. Tidy the garden up. Bin store if there is one. If not, just clean the bins off. And honestly, I know that sounds like such really, that's going to make a difference, tidying up the bins. Yes, you would be shocked. If you've got old tatty bins, I think my council's 60 quid to order a new bin. Order new ones. Simple things like that. It's like teeth. Most people you see, you don't go, yep, good teeth. But when they've got 3 or 4 teeth missing, you notice it. Or eyebrows. You don't really think about eyebrows until somebody doesn't have them. And then it stands out. What a weird fucking analogy. But seriously, that curb appeal is the first impression. And if you see things like bins that are all scatty and stinky and horrible, it makes a big difference. So let's go through some do's and don'ts. Do focus on layout, improvements, use finishes that look high-end but are cost-effective, and prioritize longevity in rentals. The amount of time I'll see something wrong and people go, do you know what? We could spend £4 grand on a really nice new kitchen, but I'd rather spend 2.5 just sort of putting new panels on all of that. Now, sometimes that's great, but instead what I want you focusing on is the fact that if you've got a long-term investment, treat it as a long-term return. For me, I'd rather spend 20 grand sometimes, even on a boring vanilla buy-to-let, knowing that it's going to last 25 years, than spending 10 grand and having problems over the next 5. Don't blow the budget on custom joinery or super luxury fittings in a standard boring vanilla buy-to-let. Don't ignore natural light or poor lighting. I've seen this so many times where I know we care about the environment, but I'm just going to say it bluntly. Do you really think your fucking light bulbs that are energy efficient are really saving the ozone? No, they're not, all right? Get some good lighting. Honestly, I've seen people spend £40,000 on refurbishment and put these bullshit energy lighting bulbs that take about 3 years to turn on properly, and the whole place just looks shit. All right, don't ignore your lighting. Make sure you're keeping it simple. And also, don't assume buyers or tenants have your exact taste. The amount of times I've done something where I'm like, how nice is this kitchen? Where on a flip, I spent like 20 grand on a real high-spec kitchen, and I've shown it to 3 or 4 people. One person's like, whoa, that's amazing, I love it. One person's like, yeah, yeah, it looks nice, like it's fine. And 2 of them like, fucking hate it. And it's because I put my personal taste in there. Keep it modern, up to date, but simple in taste. So let's break down how much a refurb should actually cost, depending on the level of refurbishment. So let's go for low tier, 10 to 20,000. Think tart-up, cosmetic work, liquor paint, maybe some new flooring, maybe some adaptations to the kitchen, but that is going to be 10 to 20 grand nowadays. Then you've got like 25 to 40k, dependent on where you're going to be, and that's more of a full refurbishment. So what I'd be thinking of this is, for 25k, I can do new wiring, bathroom, kitchen, paint, decoration, bit of a tart up to the garden, all right? Bear in mind, I'm up in Yorkshire, so if you're from London, you're like, you could barely get a kitchen done for 25k. If you're in the arse end mining village of the northeast, you'll be like, you could buy a new house for 25k. Kind of kidding, kind of not. Bear in mind, the first house I bought was £21,800. So 25 to 40 is like a proper refurb. And then you've got like 50k levels, and I'll give a great example where it is going back to brick, all right? So maybe this is where you're going to move walls. Maybe it's going to be like a complete rewire having to chase in, but generally going back to brick, in some places, new roof as well. So the big thing that I like thinking about is people like doing these big projects, but the bigger the project, the more will go wrong. People forget about how much skips actually cost. And by the way, skip on your drive isn't per day, it's per skip. So you might pay £350, £400 for a skip. But then, if you've got to empty an entire property, that could be 3 grand straight away. And trust me, I've had skips just for removal, initial removal, over £3,000. Delays due to trade cost money. Delays on materials. Replastering when you thought it was just a paint job. If it is, oh no, we'll just get that wallpaper off. Trust me, more often than not, when you take off wallpaper, you're going to pay for replastering. So all of these things that can go wrong, assume they will go wrong, which is why I like keeping things really, really simple. If I give you some budgeting tips, if it's your first 10 refurbishments, I'd always factor in 10 to 15% buffer. You know, this is like a contingency. Unexpected things do pop up and they usually cost money. Even now, across my portfolio and portfolios for other people, we've done over 500 in-depth refurbishments and over 500 smaller refurbishments, and we still get some things wrong. This happens, all right? So even now, we will put in our budget and factor in some level of contingency. Also, just note that the more you do, the more discount you'll get on kitchens, bathrooms, flooring. So we'll be doing like 20 refurbs a month. So you can imagine when we're negotiating with Howdens on getting their kitchens, we can do that at a decent discount, which means a higher ROI with the same spend. Win-win. So let me walk you through a refurbishment that we've done for a client up in Leeds. So this is pretty textbook of how a small, well-targeted budget can totally elevate a property and make it rent ready. So this is a 2-bed, end of terrace, freehold house, and the client gave us a refurbishment budget with £4,000 and £1,000 contingency. Not a lot. So this is a small house, remember. So we got carpets throughout, 1,500, nothing fancy, just clear, clean, durable, neutral, exactly what the tenants are after. We did a redeck on the property that come to 1,800, and we do 2 coats of it, keeping it very, very simple. Instead of putting a new bathroom in, we did a £100 panel because it just cleaned it up. We didn't really need to do anything. It was about 100 quid. We then spent 250 on an extraction fan, and this is key for damp and mold. And you might think that's a lot to spend. Trust me, it saves a lot more. We had to remove a door at the bottom of the stairs, which is 25 quid. I know that sounds like maybe a lot to remove a door, but it's getting somebody out. Window handle investigation, £18. All of these, you might think, really, it makes a difference. Boxing in the electrical board, £100, keeping things safe. All in, super tight budget, we come in under 4K. Now, you might think, well, what's the point even doing those? It makes a difference. It's not just about increasing the rent you're going to get. It gives it a clean, modern finish, and it helps maximize the sale of the property. And when I say a sale of the property, this one was a tenant that's come in, paid every single month, looking to stay there for years, and that creates a hands-free property investment for people. So the big mistake people make is thinking that it's always 15, 20,000. It's like, no, we're doing a tart-up on the property that gets it to a rentable standard that's having that longevity. So the key thing here is how are we actually getting this done without stress, delays, and endless headaches. And this is where I've built up the team over the years. So the stress that I was having is I've had all these builders all over the place, and it actually just created quite a lot of stress for me. And so I started bringing refurbishments in-house. And so I've got a renovation company that does all of our stuff, all of our client stuff, and then we put this into Aspire Portfolio. And if you don't know, Aspire Portfolio, we build portfolios for buy-to-let investors like us, like you, that wants to get a return on that money without them lifting a finger. That's what we tend to do at Aspire Portfolio. So we handle everything, which is the scope of the works, the budget, sourcing materials, timelines, getting reliable trades in place, and we've got it down to a process. No fluff, just results. To give you an idea, we have a 150-point checklist, which you can see here, and it's run by David. He's our project manager, and he's the guy basically making sure everything gets delivered on time, on budget, and on quality. We've done this hundreds of times, whether it's a single unit refurb, a full portfolio split. So you're not needing to chase builders or guess what's next. The idea is that we've got your back. So look, that's the game. You know, we want to add value, but do it in a smart way. And look, if you're watching this because you wanted to learn a bit more about refurbs, let me know in the comments because I could do more videos about that. But maybe you're here because you know that it's required, and maybe you want to invest in property and get your money working hard for you, but you don't have the time or knowledge. Or maybe you do, but you don't want to get it wrong on your first one or two. And that's where I can help you. So if you've got 100K or more, you're looking to invest in property and scale up, put portfolio in the comments. I'll send you a link, and no obligation, but we can book in a free one-to-one strategy session to find out if I can help you. So you're going to need about 50K per property. So 100K gets you well on the way for that portfolio. And all you are is one phone call away from putting that money into action and getting the highest ROI. So put portfolio below, fill in your details, book in a call, and I look forward to seeing if I can help you. I hope this has been valuable. Let me know if you want more videos like this, and to make sure that you don't miss out on the exciting videos that are coming up that could be pivotal to you, make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.